This is Cassandra, better known as Cassie the Coach. Welcome to the Boss Ladies Roundtable Podcast, where we help women win at love, life, and business. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about the effects of mental health effects from the pandemic, how it's affected us in many ways, emotionally, mentally, in our communities, personally, our children. We're going to speak to that today, so stay tuned. There are days where I'm like, I think I need a nap. I just need to just kind of loose out for a minute and then go back and hit it again.
I think in some instances, it created time for us to be able to spend with our families that we didn't get before. But for some, it didn't.
Some families, that was devastating.
It was
bad because it was already a broken situation.
And some people got better and some got worse.
Yeah.
And the balance of that is that if you weren't able to get the help before, you sure are worse now.
Yeah, because the other thing is I have a friend I was talking to about this subject matter, and she's a psychologist, and she was talking about the fact that they are basically looking at they're overextended now because there's not enough mental health counselors and people in the world to go after the issues at the large level that they're having these problems now. Kids, adults, everybody's got mental health issues. They've got people walking off the job that are psychologists, that are counselors, that are supposed to be helping people with their mental health. They're so overworked because there are less people in the industry now that's out there helping.
More people are calling. It's actually a good business opportunity.
It's a great business opportunity, right?
There's more demand than there is supply.
That's right.
Everybody's focused on it, right?
That's right.
Mental health, caring for your mental health, proactively paying attention is a new normal.
It is a new normal.
And it's not like you have, it's not going to be, we all have them. So one thing I'll share, just about the personal, right? Just what you're sharing in terms of just overwhelm, right? I was actually going through a divorce before the pandemic hit, so that was just an issue. So it was me and my children and myself. And then you have the pandemic hit, and then so it's the unknowns and the stress of navigating through that with your children, with your profession, and with the relationship, and being in a home with that tension, and so that creates a lot of and I share that not just for me. I just think there are other people who were in similar situations, whether it was that exact thing or other things, and it was just, again, it was compounded. So how do you navigate through it, right? Like what?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
And then another one is I was it was difficult for me in a way because I was by myself.
Yes.
I was single.
That's right.
And it was lonely.
It was very lonely.
We couldn't get out and talk and
socialize
because we had a regimen. We went out, I was out every Tuesday and
ballroom dancing.
I had created a lifestyle of getting out and doing things. And my work, I loved my work. I was involved in community activities, and then it was just me.
And there was nothing to do, nowhere to go.
Yeah, thankfully, we had our community of family that we connected with, we stayed in contact with. And that's what really helped me get through, is because we checked on each other, we talked to each other. But it was still lonely. It was hard to go from being able to go out freely and do things to having to stay in the house by yourself all the time.
Well, here's a statistic. They said that murders went down for the first time in the history of the United States. Yeah, you can't kill nobody in your home. I mean, that's real talk.
Right.
And crime in general went to. Can you imagine a situation where crime is brought to a halt? Really?
Everything came to a halt.
Everything came to a halt. So a pandemic can sure shut things down in a way that you could never even anticipate.
And it's almost like it forced us to get quiet.
It forced us
to
go within.
To
get quiet.
And sometimes we don't like what we see. We stay so busy.
That's right.
Running.
Talk about that. Yeah.
And we get overwhelmed when we get quiet.
That's right.
Going on. And look, crazy people ain't the only people who hear voices. we call a And we were able to, busyness covered it before.
Okay, yeah.
And so, it's kind of like the blessing and the curse. But navigating through it, I'm reading a book now, and I don't want to get to solutions yet. So you go ahead. I didn't know what I was saying.
No, I was just gonna say that even in the very beginning of the pandemic, when my whole office shut down, I just went to go get my mail. And let me just say, even to this day right now, it's 2 years later, I'm still working from home. And I'm paying rent at my office every single month. And it's just like, okay, at a certain point, I'm trying to work on getting back. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I just think that, we just had to look at this for what it was. And talking about going within for the first time, when you're able to sit still, and you're able to quiet the noise of driving to work, driving back home, meetings with your boss, going to conferences, sitting in front of other human beings. Oftentimes, those things keep us away from our quiet time where we kind of get to know ourselves and kind of examine ourselves and kind of look within and say some of the things that we need to do better, change, or something that we know is lacking. We can actually pay attention to it for the first time, right? So I have to say that the pandemic allowed me to do that, and some of that I didn't like. I didn't like it at all because I had to do some self-evaluation. Yes, self-evaluation.
But you have those moments.
You're like,
I'm overwhelmed without this.
This is a lot.
I'm with myself. I got to spend this time.
Right. They said adversity introduces a man or woman to themselves, and that's so true. It's so true.
And it was good for me because I had to slow down. I needed to slow down. I was a person that, and I like to fill my time. I finally got time for myself and being single and not have to worry about everybody else. Yes. And then I would fill my time with activities and things like that. I had my prayer time all laid out, my time with God. I had my time that I was going to go do this activity, working out, friends, my I just had it all worked out. Right. And then all of a sudden it was just
gone. It's like, okay, now what do I do?
Right, and it's like, okay, you can rest now. Huh?
But what's that?
So much.
What's that?
Because unfortunately for a time, I was able to work for a couple of months, and then my job shut down because my job was in and out dealing with the people of the job. So you had no people to deal with, so work with, and so I was out of work for a little bit, and it was difficult. It was challenging, and I found it hard to just relax at home. It's like, okay, now what am I gonna do?
You don't have anything to fill your time.
And I did have a lot of stuff that could fill my time, but I still didn't get it done because it was like it was different.
The anxiety of all the other stuff going on around you
collapsed into one.
Yeah,
works at home. Home's not
everything wasn't home anymore.
I had to create
home was work.
Everything
at work at home. That's right.
So everything was there. So it's
That's
like,
right.
okay, but for me, because I'm a multitasker and everything, so even when I did begin to work back, I started with my own business and things. I had my office. I would wash clothes. I would multitask.
She went back into her old mode.
I did.
She kept doing multiple things.
I still learned to fill my day with everything. I had to plan my time.
Yeah.
So I could still stay busy to keep my mind active.
That's right.
I would even go, they said we couldn't go out. I'm like, okay, everybody needs fresh air. I go and walk
Start
around
walking.
my complex.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
I needed that fresh air for my brain.
Yes.
And fresh air couldn't kill us when everybody went out.
That's right. That's the blessing, right?
Coach can't feel the whole thing.
You can't feel the whole
and I was not wearing a mask.
No, I'm not gonna wear a mask.
We're gonna go
outside and I'm
without a
walking.
mask. Exactly.
I
And
was
thank
in my
God
house
for
with a
that.
mask on.
Right? Oh my God.
That was just, to me, that was even worse. I'm
Yeah.
gonna sit in my own house and I'm gonna wear a mask in my house.
Yeah.
That that doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
I'm breathing. I'm the only one here anyway.
Right.
So what I do in my house is my house. But it did create some opportunities for me to slow down and rest.
Yes.
rest my mind. Even though I'm just always trying to plan out and be busy, it did give me the opportunity to just slow down. And I needed that.
I think it disrupted our identity, our sense of identity and who we were. So a lot of us were on the grind.
Oh yeah, hustling. Yep, that's right.
Doing what we do, and it said, no, I ain't. Well, you might keep trying to do what you do, but you ain't gonna do how you do.
Not right now.
We have to revamp how we do things.
Yeah, everything changed, and I think corporations did that, businesses, government, everything changed. So we now have a new normal, and we're all trying to adjust to that. And so one of the things I want to speak about is since we're now in year 2 of this pandemic, how do you think this is not only change what we're doing, but how do we deal moving forward? Because I want to preface that with saying I came out of this situation looking for friends, looking for people that I hadn't talked to in 2 years. And I was checking in on one lady that we're friends. Invited her to church. We would go to lunch together. She runs her own business. She has a commercial renovation business, about $5 million business or more. And we got to talk a lot. And so I started looking for her after the pandemic because I hadn't heard from her. I would call her periodically and I hadn't heard, but that happened to a lot of people, right? Numbers have changed. They're working from home. I don't know home numbers. And if their cell number changed, forget it. You're not even going to reach them. So I started reaching out to friends that knew her or know her, and I was like, "Hey, you guys have, talked to Barb. Anybody talk to her? Anybody know what she's doing?" And I was in shock when I was told by her friend that she died during the pandemic, and I was frankly devastated.
Yeah.
I was devastated because I'm like, nobody knew. Why didn't anybody? How did she die? Did she die alone? Where she was friends, she had a sister, but I don't think they were close. And I think when you spoke of you're a single person, and she was, and you were alone, if you have nobody around you looking out for you, I mean, literally, something could happen to you and nobody knows. And nobody even knows it. And so I thought about, coming off of this whole pandemic experience, how are we taking care of one another? As women, especially.
I think one thing that they created was more communication virtual.
Mm-hmm.
And most people have really taken advantage of that.
Yes.
We did in our family because my sisters were spread around. And we created just time. We made sure. Mm-hmm. We started out weekly, I think it was. We get on a call and talk to each other and video, right. not just talk.
That's what you want to see.
We want to see your faces. What are you doing? How you doing? And how you dealing with this? And what's going on in your world?
That's great.
Connecting intentionally.
That's great. Mm-hmm.
And making a habit of connecting with those people that you didn't normally do on a regular basis.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's one great thing that came out of the pandemic is that we began to reach out to people more and connect with people more. And now that we're not so much into it, we have a little more freedom, but we still need to connect. We still need to check on one another and not just be more. You have to be more intentional about it.
I think that's a good word, intentional.
And don't let people just tell you I'm doing okay.
Oh, because you know what? Okay it's a rhetorical question or comment, I think. It doesn't really mean anything because everybody says they're okay. Nobody ever wants to say, you know what, I'm not doing well. Hi, everyone. This is Cassandra. If you are finding value in today's video, then I invite you to join our community. Please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you are notified when we post new episodes. Now, if you want to reach me directly, you can reach out to me via email at CassieTheCoach1@gmail.com. If you want to go deeper with us, then I'd like you to subscribe to our email list to be notified of future classes, events, and webinars by clicking the link below. Now, let's get back to today's Boss Ladies Roundtable discussion.
Although I've heard more people say it in the pandemic, where it's like,
people say,
I'm not okay.
I'm not okay.
I Right.
And thank God for that people can be honest about that. Because there are too many of us that in the past would just say, "Oh, girl, I'm good. Everything's fine," and you know it's not.
Mm-hmm.
How do we deal with that?
But I think the other piece to understand is we have relationships. We did it intentionally as sisters, but the U.S. is one of the loneliest countries in the world.
Yeah.
Right? We have all of these ways to connect, but the connections are high level and superficial. Like even in churches, they're not there the way they used to be. Like, are the churches calling people, checking on them? Like, I've been to church for years. They wouldn't know about them. Like,
you paying your time,
girl. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna look like a little one, but it's like, if I die, I kind of want somebody in my family to know, but y'all wouldn't even know who to talk to, right?
Right.
Exactly.
There was a big gap in that. Families were disconnected from family members. Family members were passing away, and nobody. They didn't have funerals for a long time.
The relationships are just
no funeral.
We wouldn't find a church to have our grandmother's funeral.
Right, we had to just do a gravesite when they told us they gave us a minute to do it. We had to rush through stuff. That was when they were finally opening up a little bit.
Sure,
but think about the people. Those first year.
Oh my God, that was horrific.
They couldn't bury your loved ones.
That
was challenging. My best friend's mom passed during the pandemic, and it was in Texas. And I remember I had to fly down there, and it was hard getting, because the airlines weren't flying much. They didn't want people from Detroit coming to Texas because our numbers in Michigan were so high.
Our numbers were so high.
So it was very challenging, even with the funeral homes, dealing with the funeral homes. Family members, they didn't find their bodies.
Oh my God.
There was so much commotion going on.
It was horrible.
And so the thing is, it's grief. How do people deal with the grief? She didn't die. My best friend mom didn't die of COVID. She died of cancer. But fortunately we were able to get together and to bury her and have a funeral then. That was I think June of the 2020. But airline flights, you could fly almost free.
Oh my God!
Nobody
they were giving flights away. You could literally just fly anywhere.
They were more cautious about cleaning and things like that. But grief is the biggest thing I think that leaves us for so many that they didn't get to really grieve their loved ones. Some never even got to see them.
And that's so. How do you think that died alone?
Yeah.
Oh my God!
And that's a whole nother.
That's a whole nother
mental
can of
distress.
Mental distress.
And
absolutely.
You find a lot of people today that just have not recovered. I've been very fortunate to be a part of a program called Grief Share, and I was a co-host. This past season, it's virtual, but it's an opportunity to help people deal with their grief.
Yes,
and so many people are hungry and looking for ways to help to learn how to deal with this grief and understand. A lot of people don't really understand the way that they're responding or reacting to life is due to grief.
It's because they're still walking in a traumatic situation,
and they don't
their
realize
mentality is trauma based.
Yes,
it's trauma based,
and a lot of people need help, and so I'm very fortunate to be able to get back into it. Being able to mentor in that vein to help people to deal with their grief, and to understand that it's okay to grieve.
Well,
and not to carry it, but a lot of people don't even realize what they're dealing with. They're saying, I'll be okay. I'm stressed. Oh, but why?
Right. We call grief and trauma stress. Not having a good day.
Due to what?
Due to what?
And you want to blame it on we'll blame this pandemic. No, I'm grieving.
Yeah.
I'm stressed. Why?
I'm not doing well.
Because I lost
having
my loved
issues.
One, and I don't know how to deal with it. There's been so much superficial, even before COVID. Dealing with grief is always a very challenging situation, and depending on what your culture is and how so many, like we're in very in our church culture, we were told to be strong. And so when God you be strong, you stay strong. And what does that look like?
Yeah.
I don't want to be strong.
I don't want to be strong.
When I lost my father, I didn't have to be strong.
No,
y'all pray for me. Y'all be strong for me.
That's right.
Let me be weak. Let me cry. Let me grieve.
That's right. That's right.
And let me mourn the loss of my loved one. And it's okay to be crying and letting it. I don't want to be strong when I want to cry.
No.
It's true. You
and
really
I think
don't
we
know
need
how
to be
that
real
looks
about
like.
that.
It's true that you really don't know how to do it.
You don't know how.
And people, and everybody's going to do it differently.
That's right.
But some people want to define how you grieve. During this pandemic, this thing is, there's no one way to grieve. There's no,
it isn't.
just like parenting, there's no book that shows you streamline how to parent.
Right.
There's no book that just shows you streamline how to grieve.
I got it.
But you've gotta be able to, like we do, we talk.
That's right. We talk, we open, we like, hey, I'm not doing good. We check on each other.
Be able to let things out, share your feelings.
That's important.
That's not part of dealing with stress. Which is part of grieving too. Right. It causes stress.
Right.
But having communication, talking to people, and people are still afraid to talk to people. Well, you gotta be about my business.
Even now, we have to change that. We have to change that.
Yes.
And it's, you know what, we need to stop
right
judging.
and wrong, and
and nobody wants to hear that.
And
right.
It's not real. Even though my parents died, somebody died from it. Like and it's just judgment, and you don't feel safe.
And it's not a safe place, and that's
people
what's
don't
wrong.
feel
People
safe.
don't feel safe to open up
and
talk.
And that's important in our healing from even this pandemic, to be able to talk about it freely and share your concerns, your frustrations, and not to be judged by it. What you're feeling is valid.
It's normal. It's normal. That's what makes us human beings.
Right.
That's what makes us human. That's
and
right.
You should be able to share that in a safe place with someone that's not going to judge you. And and most people, if they could just be able to, if they're just allowed to share safely, they can go a long way.
That's right.
In their healing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I experienced just this week, I think I was telling you guys earlier that my customer called me on Monday morning and told me that one of my key customer contacts passed away in her sleep on Sunday night. And her mother passed away 2 weeks ago, and she was grieving the death of her mother to the point she, young woman, Black, healthy, church-going, good person, youthful, healthy, helpful in all these ways, and I just that hit me. I got off the phone, my mouth just dropped. I didn't know what to say except you have my condolences. But when I got off the phone, that really affected me mentally because I'm like, oh my God, she's younger than me. She's healthy. She's vibrant. It's just like it gave me this feeling that we felt in the beginning of the pandemic. Like, oh my gosh, nobody's really safe. Anything could happen to anybody at any time. And I literally had to catch myself and say, Cassandra, okay, you understand. Separate yourself from what you heard. I had to literally say, that's her situation. I wanted to carry that burden somehow because I know her well and I felt badly. And I kind of wanted to carry that burden in a sense, like, oh my God, I just felt so awful. And my kids were like, Mom, are you okay? And I literally also think that, as I was telling you guys earlier as well, I think I'm still going through some grief from losing my office manager during the midst of the pandemic. She was a very key person in my business, part of my family. I loved her. She was so good to me. Somebody is trustworthy. She just took care of things. And I have not gone back to work in my office 2 years later because I think I cannot walk by her desk and see her sitting there. And so
I think the opportunity that you have to even share that with us now is help. It's a part of your healing.
It is, and I think I'm still hurting about that. Honestly, 2 years later, it's like
that's
really
what you
weird.
haven't dealt with it. And
I think so. I think I have
talking
it
about
in that way.
is a good way to start dealing with it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and accepting the fact that she's not coming back. Yeah. And you're gonna have to replace her.
I won't do it right now.
Well, you
I
don't
won't even
have
hire
to.
anybody right now. It's really weird. I mean, my business could really use a replacement, but I don't know. I just see that as she's irreplaceable. I don't want anybody else to be in her spot.
So yeah, and
It's been hard.
This is part of your healing.
Yes,
Allowing
this
yourself to cry and
It
let
is.
that out.
Yeah.
Being transparent
being-
and explicit about where you are, accepting that. That's where you are.
Yeah.
And then that's where
That's
most
right.
people don't allow themselves to even go.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You let it out finally.
Yeah.
You see what I'm
Yeah,
saying? And
yeah.
I know it feels better.
It does. It does.
doesn't
Just to
solve
be
the
able to
problem,
say it.
but to share it.
Just to be able
And
to
get
say
it
it
out.
does
We're
give me
not-
some relief.
Right. And it's okay.
Yeah.
You have not fully grieved. And you need to. You need to have your ball out. Even if you go to the office and sit there and talk.
I've tried a few times just to go and sit for a little bit, but I can't stay more than a couple hours. I gotta leave. I
think that's
I
part
can't
of
do it.
what hits us and what causes the mental health struggles is that things happen, we don't process it and let it go.
Just go move
And
on.
then it impacts other areas of our lives. And then we wonder what's going on is because we have these issues that are piling up. And it's just and they get triggered.
Yeah.
Right? And it's fear that turns into stress and anxiety, and then we just start acting out. And different thought processes. I found myself in certain situations like thinking everybody was against me. And I started testing stuff and catching it like, come on, you was so wrong about it. Like, what is wrong with you? Right? And that's when I took a 14-day vacation. I did nothing but walk the beach and I listened to CeCe Winans Fill My Cup on repeat. The song is all of 20 seconds long.
Wow.
But it was just like, Lord, I know that there is something empty and missing in me.
Yes.
Fill my cup.
Fill my cup.
Fill it up until I want no more. Right? Bread of heaven. Like when I was thirsty, I'm like, look, you help me there. I need you to feel some other things because my thinking went awry because I had not dealt with some things from my divorce yet. I got defensive. And so all of that defensiveness turned into insecurity. And then I started to think everybody else is against me. And it's like, I needed to process that. So what I'll share in terms of how I'm navigating it in this very moment is I'm reading Eckhart Tolle's book, Power of Now. And it's been around for a while. I have this other one, New Earth. I started that one, but I think this is the better one to start with. And I'm trying to spirit by the spirit. And this spirit is telling me that living consciously and in the now and getting rid of the pain body, all of the fears of the past and things that have been holding me back is like freeing, right? And it is really paying attention to how our minds have all these different stories and narratives going on that are based on fears from the past or worries about tomorrow that is not really happening today.
That's right. And if we can manage that,
girl,
harness
I'm
that.
just telling you, I'm in this conversation disagreeing with you now instead of interrupting you. I'm like, Camille, what is she really saying? Why are you feeling the urge to interrupt her right now? Listen and hear her out. And like literally, and the pressure and the tension releases from my body. So then I probably
talk to
didn't sleep
yourself.
last
And
night.
it's okay to talk to yourself, right?
And what he says is, just give light to it. I'm not even talking to myself because I got to overthinking and journaling about why I think what I think. And
that's way too much. That's too deep.
But overthinking
too
is the thing.
deep.
There are books on overthinking.
It's true, and we all do it sometimes.
And he just says, just put light on it. And I love it because I'm like, you know what? I'm the
Acknowledge
way, the truth, and the light.
That's right.
I put light on it, it dissipates, and now I'm free to be creative and to be present with you. And it's helping me today. We'll check in 2 weeks from now, see if I'm still doing that. Because sometimes we get distracted and we lose track of being focused on growth in the city. This is all I'm focusing on. It's right. Presence now. So the best of me can show up all the time. The light of me can be here so that, we can be supportive of one another.
Speaking of supportive of one another, I think that we should get ready to wrap this session up. And part of the way to do that is let's check on one another. Let's keep calling one another. Let's call our friends. Let's resurrect old relationships and check on new ones. and let's just be present for each other
Yes.
and be our sister's keeper and our
Yes.
sister's support
I
system.
love that.
And if we can do that, I think everybody's going to feel better. And we'll together get through this pandemic. We'll get through it together.
And I think that everybody, as you're listening, if you're watching this live or on recorded, do that. Check in with some friends. Check on somebody that you haven't talked to.
That's right.
Check on your siblings.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely check on your children.
That's right. Yep.
We
And
have
your
no
next door
excuse.
neighbor.
We have no excuses. We have virtual. We have the internet.
Mm-hmm.
We have cell phones. There's no excuse not to be able to reach out, email. Be intentional. Reach out to your loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
Check on those that are suffering, those that have lost loved ones. You don't have to have a script. Just say, hey, I'm just calling to check on you. Look out for one another. Let's be intentional, more intentional about it.
I love that.
We've said some things, and we can still do better.
Absolutely.
We can all do
We
that.
can all do better.
On that note, we want to thank you for your time. We want to thank you for watching and being with us today. We want to thank you for watching and being here for us with the Boss Ladies podcast, the Roundtable podcast, and we thank you for your time. And until next time, we'll see you soon.